Hello learners and viewers, welcome to this session. Today's topic is social audit. You all must be knowing that this topic is part of the course MGSE 002, Gender Audit and Gender Budgeting. The learning objective of this session is we need to understand what are the steps and benefits of social audit. Why do we do the social audit? What are the benefits? What is the steps in doing this gender audit, social audit? You all must be knowing there are 6 steps as far as social auditing is concerned. Before I explain the 6 steps regarding the social auditing, like a gender audit, social auditing is also a framework. This framework can be used when you assess any government programs or policies from a gender perspective. That is the main objective of doing the social auditing. As far as India is concerned, both central and state governments, they are implementing various policies and programs to bring gender equity and equality. That is the first issues you all must know. Second is that when we talk about the various social policies or gender policies, even when we talk about the social policies, whatever the social policies the government of India or any state governments they implement, there is a inbuilt gender component in social policies. For an example, if you take the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, in that program there should be, like when they implement, it is the lowest development unit in India is the Gram Panchayat. That is, the Gram Panchayat is the nodal agency to implement Mahatma Gandhi National Employment Guarantee Program. When they implement, for example, 33.3% reservation should be given to the women. So, so at least minimum. When second one is that not only providing opportunities for the women to actively participate in Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, when they implement, they have to they properly address certain issues. For example, if there is a lactating mothers, they should provide a space to feed the child, small child, and there should be given a break, and whatever the work site, that should be within the reach of the women members to come and actively participate in the work. So in that, if you look at that particular policies, the policy itself clearly stated that what are the issues needs to be addressed when they implement particular policy. Like that, for example, whatever policies, for in the present situations, both central government as well as state account. For that, they have to open that account. So the account should be in the name of the female member in a family. Like that, the government has implemented various social security programs. When you look at all the social security programs, there should be an inbuilt gender component. Why do they implement or inbuild their gender component in any policies and program is that looking at the existing data, looking at the like gender socialization process as well as patriarchy, it is very important to encourage more and more women, and they should be provided an opportunity to participate social security measures, and we need to provide social security to facilitate them to participate in the economic activities. Thus, the government is implementing various programs. When you look at that program, how to assess? That is the next question it comes to our mind. Whether these programs may lead to social security. That is the first question. Second one is that whether these programs were actively implemented in the field, whether these programs, when they implement, whether it has reached the beneficiaries or not. Like that, the social security measures or not, that could be that put to the participatory activities. In that step 1, we need to understand the key principles of social audit, as well as we need to list the core values of the department and programs. This social auditing can be used to assess any government departments or any programs and policies. I have given the example of Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Program. Those programs can be assessed using the social auditing framework, as well as we can assess any institutions or organization, even government departments can be assessed by using the social audit framework. When we assess the any any organization or institutions, it's important to list down social objectives of the department. Any department, if you take ministry of any department, any government department or any institutions or any organization, one should list the social objectives the department is working towards or program it aims to contribute. That is very important. So match activities with the object. Whether that we need to look at the organizational objectives. After looking at the organizational objectives, we need to look at the organizational activities. Whether the organizational activities matching with the organizational objectives or not, that is the first step. If the organizational objective is different, the activities is different, then the organization cannot reach its objectives. That is very important. So, we need to match the activities with the objectives, as well as one need to list the current practices and delivery system, as well as one has to fix the responsibility for doing social audit in the department. When we start the social audit in any organization or department, one person must take a responsibility to do the social audit in the organization, as well as the organization must allocate enough resources to do the social audit. This is very important. The second step is that, first step is that look into the organization, to look into the organizational objectives, and organization has to give responsibility to the one person within an organization to do the social audit, and organization has to allocate enough resources to do the social audit. That is the step 1. When it comes to step 2, it is defining audit boundaries and identifying stakeholders. Like what is the social audit? What is the objective of doing the social audit? That needs to be defined when we start doing the social audit. That is the step 2. Second, in this steps 2, we need to clearly define the boundaries. In which are the areas one could able to do the social audit. That is the step 2. That's why defining the audit boundaries and identifying stakeholders. That is the step 2. In this step 2, we need to elaborate key issues for social auditing based on social objectives. What is the social objective of the particular organization? Based on the social objectives of particular organization, one has to elaborate the key issues for social auditing. Second, significant activities as far as step 2 is concerned, we need to prepare a statement of purpose, objectives, key issues and activities for social auditing. Third, significant activities as far as step 2 is concerned, identify key stakeholders for consultation. Like whether we can do the government or civil society, anybody can be consulted to do the social auditing, we need to identify the key stakeholders for consultation, then forge consensus on audit boundaries, identify stakeholders and formalize commitments. These are the significant activities as far as step 2 is concerned. The step 3 is social accounting and bookkeeping. Select performance indicators for social accounting that we need to develop. Whoever doing the social auditing, they need to develop the key indicators for performance, like which are the areas we are assessing whether that particular organization or institutions they could able to perform. So we need to develop the indicators. Based on that indicators, we need to assess the organization, identify which existing records can be used. Like for example, when we do social auditing, sometimes we may require and we may not require financial accounting. So which are the existing records can be used? For example, when we do the social audit in the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Program, there we can assess the records of the beneficiaries. We can use like for 6 months how many beneficiaries they actively participate, their backgrounds, whether really they are from socially or economically backward. Like for example, for 6 months, some of the beneficiaries they may actively be part of that particular program continuously. Some may participated for a week, for a month. Then one could able to assess why there is some of them not participated, why they have actively participated, and their attendance. Everything can be assessed. So like thus one need to identify which records can be used when we do the social audit and which record is not necessary for doing the social auditing. Identify what additional data to be collected, who would collect this data and when and how. This also we need to decide when we do the social audit. What are the additional information is required? When we look at this existing records, some of the information may not be available within that organization. So we need to collect additional data to do the social auditing. When we decided to collect certain additional data, we need to decide who will collect those additional data, how will they collect, when will they collect, once they decide to collect additional data, do they have enough financial resources to collect the additional data? For example, if a particular organization actively implementing certain programs or policies, so the beneficiaries will be spread throughout in a district or throughout in a particular locality. So when we collect the data from a particular beneficiary, certainly we need to travel and we need to collect. Traveling as well as collecting the data, additional financial resources is required. Whether the particular organization could able to support for additional financial resources to collect additional data or not. All these issues needs to be finalized. It needs to be decided as far as step 3 is concerned. In that step 3, the further activities are to identify when stakeholders would be consulted and what, prepare a social accounting plan and timeline, plan for monitoring social accounting activities. When we talk about step 4 is preparing and using social accounts. So what is preparing and using social accounts? As far as step 4 is concerned, like we need to use the existing information, whatever the data we have collected, the collected data can be used as well as the available existing information within an organization that can be used, as well as sometimes when any organization or institutions or government departments, when they implement certain programs, during the process of implementations, sometimes they may collect the information from the stakeholder, as well as during that process the views of the stakeholders also be collected. Those information might be available within an organization. Thus we need to decide in the process of doing social audit, whether we use the existing informations already collected, whatever the information available within an organization, are we going to use those information, or are we going to collect additional information or not? Those decisions need to be taken, as well as the resources needs to be allocated to collect the additional information and identify key issues for action. As well as during this process, we need to take stock of the objectives, activities and core values. In the process, we need to set the targets for future. When we are doing the social auditing, in that entire process, sometimes we may come to the conclusion that there is a lack of information within an organization. Those needs to be identified, that gaps needs to be bridged, and the information, if there is a lack of information, then the organization, we need to inform the organization this is the gap within an organization that needs to be bridged. So suggestions can be given to the organization to bridge the gaps, as well as one can give the or set the targets for future of the organization. The step 5, as far as social audit and dissemination is concerned, the step 5 is that social audit and disseminations. For example, once the organization decide to do the social audit, that whatever they have done as far as social audit is concerned, once they complete the social auditing process, the information, the final results needs to be disseminated within an organization. So step 5, the important activities as far as step 5 is concerned: presenting social accounts to social auditor. Social auditor verifies data used, assess the interpretation and comment on the quality of social accounting and reporting. As well as in this step 5, social accounts revised in accordance with social auditor's recommendation. Then social auditor has to collect information from the stakeholders regarding program implementation and benefits occurred to them. Disseminate social auditors consolidate report to the decision making committee that include stakeholders, like whatever, the reports they have consolidated by the social auditor, that information has to be disseminated to the stakeholders. Disseminate report to civil society. For example, if that organization or institution, even even in government programs also, individuals, they are part of the implementation process. Most of the government programs, specifically the programs related to women's development or the program related to rural development, their stakeholders, they actively participate in the entire implementation process. For example, most of the rural development programs, population from the rural areas, they actively participate, as well as some of the rural development programs, even civil society organizations, they will be part of the rural development programs. In this entire process, once the social auditing process is completed, whatever results we get from the social audit, those things needs to be reported to the civil society. Then only the civil society, they themselves, they identify the gaps in the implementation process. That gaps can be bridged, and civil society can also be actively, they can rectify the gaps in the implementation process. Then the next cycle, when they implement the same programs, one could be able to improve the implementation process. Thus, in the next cycle can be actively do the social auditing from the beginning itself. In the process, I have clearly mentioned that when we do the social auditing, we need to collect various information. Some of the informations already be part of the organization. Some of the information may not be available with the organization. So when we do the social auditing, certainly whatever the information it is not available with the organization, that needs to be collected. So the next cycle, when we implement, these gaps can be bridged, and any programs, any government programs or policies can be implemented with the renewed vigor, as well as they can bridge the gaps in the existing implementation process, and successfully they can modify it and it can be implemented. The last step is that step 6, that is feedback and institutionalization of social audit. When we talk about the feedback and institutionalization of social audit, these are the significant activities one has to take up in the last stage of doing the social audit. First one is that feedback for fine-tuning policy, legislation, administrative function and programming towards social objectives. Like for example, if there is any gap in the organizational policies, after doing the social auditing, that organizational policy can be improved. Second one is that legislations. The government may have brought the certain legislations through parliament or state assemblies. When it comes to implementation process, the government may realize that there is a gap in the existing legislations that needs to be bridged. So after completing the social auditing, they can go back to the parliament or state assemblies and they can amend the existing legislations and they can implement in amended legislations can be implemented, as well as one could able to analyze the existing administrative functioning, how the existing administration functions, whether they are bringing equity and equality in an organization, or whether they could able to mainstream the gender policies in an organization or not. Everything can be assessed by doing the social auditing. Thus, administrative functioning can be improved, as well as the programming towards social objectives. Many of the organizations, institutions, government ministries, government departments, they implement various programs with that social objectives to improve the lives and livelihoods of the individuals in the society. Specifically, certain ministries, they directly implement various programs and policies in the policies like to address poverty, to improve the women's status and position in the society. So with that various social objectives, many of the government programs has been implemented in the field. Whether the programs or policies are formulated towards social objectives or not can be analyzed through the social auditing process, as well as once the social auditing is completed, there should be a follow-up action. This follow-up action can be taken up after completing the social auditing process, as well as reviewing support to civil society for its participation. For example, some of the civil society organization, as I have mentioned earlier itself, the civil society may be part of the government implementation process. In some of the civil society's objectives may align with the government objectives and they can actively participate in implementation process. Some of the civil society organization objective may not align with government programs and policies. This can be reviewed whether the existing civil society organization they could able to support government programs and improve the implementation of government programs or not. That can be reviewed by doing the social auditing process, as well as this social audit can be institutionalized. Like it should be the entire social auditing process should be institutionalized and it should be part of the institutional mechanisms that we need to ensure by doing the social auditing. The last step is to institutionalize the entire process of social auditing. Before I wind up this lecture, I would like to explain the levels of doing social audit. As a learner, you must understand that this social auditing can be implemented at two levels. One is that organization level. As from the beginning, I am giving the examples from government, private or NGOs, various organizations. The entire social auditing process can be carried out within an organization. That organization could be government or semi-government or private or non-governmental organization or civil society organization. At any level, one could implement this social auditing process. Second one is that civil society level, like private, NGOs, CBOs, universities. In any university, they could able to carry out the social auditing. Universities, schools, consumer organizations, self-help groups and individuals. At these two levels, we could able to carry out the process of social audit. When we talk about the organizational level, it is internal as well as external. Internal component corresponds to social accounting, social bookkeeping, whereas the external component involves verification of social account by an independent social auditor or the auditor panel. Community or social level audit is carried out by gathering the data on community values, social benefits, social capital and quality of department or program interface with people. Whatever the programs that particular organization implement, whether they could able to interface with the people or not, this matched with outcomes of social audit carried out at the organization or department level. As I have mentioned, this social audit can be carried out at various levels. Even if you take an organization also, if you take any organization, the organization can be at the national level, subnational level or at the regional level, district level. So, any level this social audit can be carried out, as well as even lowest level, even self-help groups. Self-help group is the informal organization or informal group. They are 10 or 15 people, they come together and they build their own group for economic empowerment. So this social auditing can be carried out at the self-help group level also. Thus, it can be carried out in an formal organization as well as informal organization. Hope this lecture you could able to clearly understood that this social audit framework can be used when you take up any research or when you work as an intern in an organization to complete your field-based research project or internship. Thank you so much for listening this lecture. We could able to meet in another session to discuss another topic. All the best for the learners who are taking up this term and examination in the month of June. I wish you a happy learning. Thank you.